morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Chasing Self Actualization. Hello, my name is Marisol Sanchez.
And I'm Janaiah von Hassel.
And welcome. Episode 1, we're here. Can you believe it?
I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited for our guest today, David Reeser, who is the CEO of Openness.
Yes, and I'm super excited to share the interview. But let's talk a little bit about Chasing Self Actualization, because this is the first time people are going to be listening to us.
Okay.
How are you? Excited?
I am, yeah. So actually, the title was something that you came up with. So I think introduce our audience to why this title grabbed you and you felt it should be the name of our podcast.
Okay, so funny story. I've been podcasting since 2014, and I actually do remember this moment. I was doing an interview with one of my closest friends, and I said something along the lines of, well, aren't we chasing, our self-actualization? And that's a reference to Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, which I learned about in Psych 101 college. And she had this reaction of like who's doing that? And this was years ago. This was many, many years ago. And I remember having this moment of like, oh, that's not something we're doing. And never put it away, locked it up. And then in my last job, in my last podcast I was doing for a company, the founder of that company, the owner of that company, would mention self-actualization, and that's what he wanted for his employees, and that's what he wanted for society. And that sort of piqued my interest again. And as you know, I decided, I had this overwhelming sense, I can't believe I'm going to say these words, but I really felt like God wanted me to do this. Yeah. God wanted me to quit my career, not my job, my career, a 30-year career, and do this podcast. And I prayed about it, and I gave my 2 weeks notice. I talked to my husband, and I prayed and prayed and prayed. And on my vision board, I said I had put podcast co-host because I knew I wanted to do this with someone. I actually asked a few people, and it just wasn't the right fit. It didn't work out. And so I was like, oh, I don't know if this is what God really wants me to do. And lo and behold, you showed up, and I mentioned that I was doing a podcast, and
I was like, pick me. And that was very synchronistic. And I think all of the steps that have led to launching this have really just, they've been a lesson to me in really stepping into the ease and flow of things when they're meant to be, and how incredible it's been, our connection and the guests that we, have brought on, and just what we're doing. It just feels very much in flow. When you mentioned your title, it wasn't something I was really familiar with. I had heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was. And something that's always been the way I've always worded and had similar desire to you in wanting to chase my self-actualization and be around others who are doing the same, and often feeling like, why are we doing anything else when I'm in a crowded room and feeling like that's not of interest to anybody? And I'm just like, what are we all doing? But for me, it was being aligned with my life's purpose. And that was kind of how I would think of it. Or a tagline that I often used was live life alive, as opposed to people who I just almost thought of as like the Walking Dead. And this was sort of my mindset is there anything sadder than getting to the end of your life and almost feeling like you have like an unlived life? Like you didn't take the opportunity, you didn't take the risk, you didn't step into the unknown and see what was there for you. And I've always wanted to be a part of helping other people take the plunge and begin this journey. So when I recognized that that was important to you as well, and that we could align on this, and we could interview people who have taken the plunge and started running on this course, and they could share with our audience, the nuggets they found along the way, so that others can kind of get that jump start. I just couldn't be more thrilled than to be on doing this with you.
I'm honored and grateful This is very important. Very, very, very important. I, Marisol Sanchez, am not self-actualized. I'm not even freaking close. I'm not. But I've been chasing it. And if you look at the triangle, the bottom is about security and safety and your basic needs being met. And I was on that rung for a long time. Being first generation, my parents immigrants. I was looking for security for a long, long time. But now I turned 50, where I am in my life, I feel that I'm just entering the self-esteem rung of the Maslow's theory. But what's interesting is doing this with you and meeting our guest, I've had a really odd reaction to it, because as we meet these guests, as we interview them, I'm learning so much, and I feel that they're speaking for me. Like, I needed that lesson. I needed that, what golden nugget that they offered. And I also simultaneously feel that as I'm chasing this, as I'm doing this, I feel, my self-saboteur come out, and my, who am I to do this? And who am I to be in the room with these people that are doing so much and so many great things? So that's been really interesting on this journey. Is I'm excited, but I'm also scared, because I realize that this is going to be a journey for me too. Mm-hmm. I'm not coming as a subject matter expert. In fact, I'm coming as a student. I want to learn.
Yeah. I think that's been a fascinating piece of this, is just being in the, just having it be so present and talking to other people about this matter. I'm just picking up so much from everyone around me, and it's been really eye-opening for me. I think you and I look at this a little differently, and I think that's what's great about it, is that we can bring two different views to our listeners, and they're going to resonate on different things about that. And when it comes to Maslow's theory and the pyramid, I feel like I kind of just run the gamut on that period, all throughout the day. I don't really feel like I've left any levels behind forever, but I have ascertained moments of feeling like this is it. I am in flow. This is exactly how I came here to show up and be. And ultimately, I hope to spend more of my life in that. But I also, I don't have any hesitations to, if I'm in a moment of feeling self-actualized, I'll say it. And I don't feel bad about that. I'm here for it. So,
I love that. But I love that about you, by the way.
Thank you. But I think that's kind of, a lot of people are going to look at this differently. And that's what we want to get people. We want to, hear about it and say, how do you connect with this idea, and how are you chasing yours, and how do you feel when you've accomplished something that puts you, feeling at the top of the pyramid, and how do you feel when you're just trying to feel safe?
And absolutely. 110% everything you said. And I love your enthusiasm. I love how we do have different reactions to our guest. And let's talk about our first interview, which I'm so excited to share with everyone. You brought this guest to us.
So our interview coming up is with David Reeser, and it's pre-recorded, so we can kind of discuss, the our takeaways from it, which I think is great. So he is the CEO of Opiate, which is a software technology that's going to help bring more people who are suffering from addiction, help with the, increase of recovery to that through some of the technology there. So he'll talk more about that. But my takeaway, we had different takeaways from it. So I'd love to hear, what was your takeaway in listening to that interview?
So when we were here a little bit before we started recording with him, just chatting, and we talked about the mustard seed and how my intention for this whole podcast is, if it's just one person out there that says, you know what, I want to heal, I want to chase my self-actualization, that's my intention. So when I met him and he sat down, his presence, this is what I felt. He is in his body.
Yeah.
He is locked
He's
in.
Anchored in. And that was why I wanted to have him on. You couldn't meet him and not be like, whoa, like that guy's anchored in. He doesn't leave. I feel like I leave my body like 30 times a day. I'm like, I'm not here for this, you know, but he's present for sure.
He's present. So that was impressive. And then for me personally, as the interview was going, I had that, what's that? There's a phrase, imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Like
where I'm like, when he won a major award here in North Carolina where the tech industry is booming, and I'm like, why am I sitting in this room? Like, who am I? So I was so grateful for him to come, and I'm excited for everyone to listen in. He has so much information to share, and it was an honor. It was a true honor.
I agree. I thought in listening back, I was like, wow, there's just nuggets. Like I was like writing stuff down and just there's a lot of takeaway in this, and I'm excited to share it with people because I think that there's some real valuable information about how you can align to move forward in your life in a positive way that makes you feel more energetic, more vital, more alive. And I thought for me, the takeaway, I have a little bit of a different takeaway when I see somebody that shines. I'll just say it like that. I go, well, if you can shine, I can shine. Like, I just kind of think like, you know, what's so special about you that I couldn't do that too? I love that. And that's sort of like, I think this is available to all of us. Like it has to be. It wouldn't, you know, this has to be available. And you figured out how to tap into it. I want to know how you did it, when you did it, what, you know, and like, give me the list. I want to do it too. So I had a little bit of like a high vibe and like, all right, let's do this. And then the other thing I thought was incredible is that somebody so successful and aligned and saw everybody else the same way. And I think as I've met more of people that are in this evolution of self-actualization, the more aligned they are, the more they see somebody who's struggling with addiction, somebody who's homeless, somebody who's really down on their luck, and they do not see themselves as separate from that person. And I just find that so phenomenal because here we are feeling separate from the person in front of us, and yet they're feeling no separation. They're feeling equality to all. And I thought that was a phenomenal takeaway for me.
The last thing I want to mention, and then we'll throw it right to the interview because it's fascinating, is no one was more surprised than myself to identify that this is going to be a spiritual podcast. But that is a common theme that has arisen in our interviews, that there is a spiritual aspect to it. And, you know, this is an all-inclusive podcast, and I'm so grateful that we can just all show up and be authentic in
absolutely
how we worship, who we believe in. It is all-inclusive. So, well, with no further ado, I think let's go to the interview.
Joining us today is David Reeser. He's the CEO of Opiaid. David, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we'd just love to hear a little bit about what you're doing at Opiaid.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share our mission at Opiaid with you and your audience. So Opiaid is a data science company making the treatment of addiction safer and more effective.
That is really awesome. I know I learned a little bit. You won at the gala back in October. Share with us the award that you won. I know you were a runner-up for the Tech for Good Award for very good reasons, and you won the Data and AI Analytics Award. Is that right?
That's right. So we were up for an award for the #1 data science and data analytics company in the state of North Carolina. We were nominated and won that, which was pretty phenomenal considering the amazing companies that are working in North Carolina, doing some tremendous things in artificial intelligence, machine learning. But yeah, we took the #1 prize for that. So quite proud of the team for that. And then we were runner-up for Tech for Good.
Yeah, wow. I know. So one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on here today is we met for business reasons, and during that time and at all of the networking events, I've seen you speak. I've seen you just be, visiting at a networking event. And then I've met you when we were discussing business-related things. Mm-hmm. And something that really stood out to me about you and something that we don't always see in corporate America today is that you show up genuinely you. There was no difference when I met you at a coffee shop, when you were publicly speaking, when you were sitting at the table with the people you work with. And I think a lot of people today feel that they have to put on a mask. We have to show up one way for business. We show up one way for friends. And I think a part of the Chasing Self Actualization or the Self Actualization is about authenticity and being aligned with our purpose and showing up congruent with who we are. And that was something that I saw in you.
I really appreciate that. You know, I like to think, actually, I don't like to think, this is literally the definition of integrity, is no matter where you meet me or what interactions we're going to have, I'm going to stay true to what I know is right. You know, I'm going to communicate the same heart regardless of the room that I walk into. And it's important that regardless of what hat we have on, that we are authentically ourselves in every one of these situations and every one of these scenarios. So I appreciate that. Thank you for picking up on that. Thank you for acknowledging it.
Absolutely.
There's something about that edification. It's very important.
When we met and sat down to figure out who would we invite to be a guest, it was this broad idea, because it's hard to go up to a person and be like, hey, we think you might be self-actualized. The title, Chasing, because we don't know who is self-actualized. Maslow had a theory. I heard about it in college almost 30 years ago. And it's never been, I don't hear it in conversation. I don't hear people talking about chasing their best version of themselves. So when she brought you up, she spoke of you so highly and that you're so congruent and in alignment and authentic. And so my question for you is, was there a moment, like, is there an episode in your life that you were like, this is how I'm going to show up. This is how I'm going to start my day, being this way?
Yeah, so to unwrap that one, we'll have to go back a little ways.
Love it.
Yeah, so maybe I'll tell you about a little bit of the genesis of what brought me here, and then you can see how this unfolds, because it's never just one event. You know, it's a series of pivotal events that help shape an individual, and in this case, I can speak to my own story, helped shape me. You know, I grew up in Pennsylvania in a home where I knew I was broke, but the rest of us thought we were poor. Let me explain what that means. So poverty is a mindset, and sometimes generational, hard to break. You just believe that what you're experiencing is what is, and that there really is an opportunity outside of what you see, so just make the best of it. The realization came to me when I was fairly young, you know, the age of my youngest daughter, actually, not about 9 years old, when I realized, you know what, I'm broke, temporary state of not having. I know within me I have the ability to do great things. And even in those days, I was learning how to pray. And I just knew there was more than what I was seeing. The world was bigger than what I was experiencing. And that was really pivotal for me, that realization. And I used to speak things to myself back then, because I was the kid literally walking around with holes in my shoes, you know, with a backpack where one strap was broken, and I'd walk to school. Like, it's those funny stories you hear where it's like, oh, they walked uphill 2 miles and up home 2 miles uphill again, you know, in the snow. But the reality is I literally, you know, did walk for miles to get to school, and I'd get there smelling like cigarette smoke, soaked to the bone, and sit through class all day. I mean, that was literally my story. But the thing is, I kept my head up high, and I excelled in school, and I worked very hard because I knew what I wanted. And what I was looking to achieve wasn't exactly, you know, what became of me, but the moral fiber is, you know, essentially who I am. So started off, you know, with struggle, but, you know, difficult times do one of two things. You know, we either become bitter or we become better. You know, and I was just committed to the fact that I wasn't going to be bitter, you know, and that I started developing a positive outlook, and no matter what, I was never going to give up. So I have some deeply rooted, people say mantras. I don't really think that's it. I've got deeply rooted truths that I know are just true, and they just work. And I've leaned into them, and they've served me well over the years. Another very pivotal moment for me And please reel me back in if I'm going too
I'm
far left or
fascinated.
right.
Yeah, we're
Another pivotal moment for me was my father smoked quite a bit, and he ended up developing lung cancer, passing away when I was 16. So that was a very formative opportunity too. You know, that would have been an easy opportunity to take a nosedive, especially where I was where I was living, for things to go very badly. And I just chose to want to make him proud, and I made it an opportunity to double down on not letting the world suck me into this negative vortex. I was going to push through and succeed. And I pretty much became a father right then too, because I had a younger sister and she needed a dad, you know, so
And
my brother and I stepped up.
And this was innate. You just had an innate knowledge, awareness that to
You
be
know,
directed
you
in
can
this?
say it, you can say innate, but God was looking out for me the whole time. He saw what was happening. You know, it wasn't a mystery to him, and it was part of the plan. Even though it's less important that we ask why, and more important that we ask what. You know, what are you going to do with this? It's not why, it doesn't matter. It's the what. Or why? What are we going to do with what we know and what we're experiencing now? But the other piece is too, to give credit to my parents, is that they instilled in us fight.
yeah.
You know, and some of it was genetic, you know, seriously, because I look at some of my siblings and stuff, and I'm like, this is genetic. and then some of it was learned through behavior. Like, we'd see tough times, they're like, we're going to get through them, you know? So that was really great. And learning how to laugh at things too, you know, especially difficult things. So I can't take all the credit. In fact, I can't take any of the credit. But it is fascinating, especially looking back, to see how some of this played out. So that was a very formative time for me, very challenging too. And then there were professional moments that were aha moments for me. When I was 9, I had dreamt about becoming a physician. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a physician, and it's pretty interesting when you see my story, because like I went right to first grade, no kindergarten. I failed first grade. You know, so they're like, this is not the smart kid, you know, like this, but it proved not to be the case. And I just had a desire for healthcare, and I did pursue a career in healthcare. And here I am now leading Opiate with the ability to impact millions of individuals, far more than I could have ever done as a physician. So I'm really grateful.
Absolutely. A couple things come to mind from what you shared. You said you had a couple, you don't call them mantras, but truths.
Yeah.
That have carried you through. Would you share them with us?
Happily, yeah. And these are things that I share with my girls too. We used to talk about them every day, but they're so ingrained that there's no need to. In fact, they bring it up to me. And we have 3. So I'm a big believer in keeping things simple. Even for Opiate, we have a true north question that I'll tell you about when we get there. But the mantras are simply this. We start off by saying it's important to be brave and kind. We must be brave and kind, you know, because doing the right thing is often scary. You know, kindness is so powerful. So showing love and kindness and doing the right thing, especially when it's difficult, being brave and kind. Was that brave and kind we used to say? You know, or
Yeah.
Here's an example of someone being brave and kind. Like and it's important to do them together. And then we talk about giving our very best. And what I mean by that is, don't worry about the other person's best. And your best can look different on different days. If you don't get enough sleep, you don't feel well, you know, you can give your best. It may not look the same as it did yesterday, but give your very best. Whatever you've got, you give your very best to the things that you do. Excellence, not perfection. Perfection's nearly unattainable, but we can give excellence every day. And the other thing is never give up. This is the third one. And a lot of people say, oh, never give up. It's not a spirit of don't quit. Different. Never give up the way that we view it in my family. And I've watched this take root in my kids. It's beautiful and powerful, and I'm living it out, and they see it, me living it out, and it makes it even more impactful for them. The spirit of never give up is you already envision the victory. When I set out on a journey, I'm already seeing myself, even in my mind's eye right now, I see myself across the finish line holding that trophy, whatever it is that we're looking to achieve. I can feel it. I can smell it. I know what my body feels like. Like I'm already experiencing it, even though we're not there. So the end has already happened. Now we just have to reverse engineer it and walk the steps out. Because you know that when you see the prize and you have it in your hand, you're like, oh, okay, I know what I'm willing to do to make this happen. And that's been impactful for me through getting through school and breaking through some of these challenges that we've had. And now I've watched my kids growing through it too. And very much, things that we're learning and refining our own understanding too is just showing honor. It's important to honor everybody around you. Even when I talk about the companies that we compete against, I honor them. Even if they made mistakes, I make mistakes too, but we honor them. Showing honor is so very important, and being grateful.
Yeah.
Being grateful in all circumstances. I'm grateful for the challenges. I'm grateful for the blessings. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful to be here with you all and the opportunity that maybe somebody hearing this might be positively affected in such a way that it inspires hope.
You said some incredibly powerful things, and we weren't even recording beforehand. You said something about speaking negatively. Negativity? How do you say it?
Negativity or negatively.
Negatively,
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. And you don't do it. And I that was really powerful because I attempt to not do that, but I catch myself doing it all the time. I'm trying to be very careful with the words that I use and realizing how powerful they are. How did that idea stem?
Survival first, right? Because when you're walking, boy, I have so many thoughts on this. You find what you speak.
I believe it.
That's
why they call it a spell.
Yeah, what you speak, what you put out there is what you will find. And I have so many examples from life, from science. I love science. I love healthcare. I'm an expert in human physiology, pathology, anatomy, pathology. Like I can do cross-sectional anatomy all day, physics. Like I love all this stuff. I love human intelligence. I can tell you across the gambit that words have power, and you will find what you look for. If you speak positive things in, those are the things that you find. If you speak negative, you'll find that and attract it too. And moreover, if you think about it, if you're having a miserable day, saying negative things over you just makes things worse.
Yeah.
As well. But there's power in what we speak. Speak life into people, because you have the ability to speak life or speak death. You can tear somebody up with your words, and you may forget about it, but those words eat away at that person like an evil seed that was planted for years, the words that we speak. But equally powerful, you could speak life into somebody, especially at a time that is particularly sensitive. You could plant a seed, that you come back to, like your mustard seed. The fascinating thing about mustard seed is the tiniest seed, but it has the ability to grow such a massive and beautiful plant, right?
Yeah.
Tree, really. It's a tree.
Actually,
so we can do the same thing.
On that, when I met with you at the coffee shop and I shared with you about my son, and I just mentioned to you that I thought every child should be the apple of his mother's eye, and you took a moment to respond and speak life into that. It ended up being a chapter in the book I'm writing.
Oh,
yeah, and you didn't know that,
No, it's beautiful.
I wrote just writing about that experience with my son and recognizing that was something that should be shared and that had meaning. And I think as you were just talking, it was making me feel like, wow, yeah, and the ripple effect of all the people that'll read that. And the moment that, because you mentioned something, that it made me aware of something that I was able to share. And I don't know, that just kind of struck me. But I also wanted to mention, when you were talking about not giving up, and you were talking about how you visualize the end goal, you're a visionary. And I think, people in your space where the kind of places we work in, startups, there's a lot of visionaries in that space. And you've already envisioned OP-Aid before you even started it. When it was a thought, you had that vision. I would love if you shared with us what that vision is and where you see this, how you see it benefiting, and how, just what you were able to picture that made you go for it like you did.
Yeah, so this is a great story. Stories have power. Our testimonies have power. They have power to them. So at the time, I was building an IT company, and I literally got a download from God where he said, I want you to love your neighbors. I want you to help your neighbors. And at the time, we were looking at leveraging AI in my company, my other company that I built and sold here in Wilmington, IT company. We were looking to leverage AI for our clients, but we're also looking at like what kind of community challenges can be solved with AI, and the topic of opioid addiction came up, and what a terrible tragedy it was here in our hometown, and what that led to was just a deep realization that we were getting it wrong, and that the way that we were looking at substance use disorder, which is a neurologic disease, no different than any other chronic disease like diabetes, and heart disease, but we were really getting it wrong, and God came to me and He literally said, "I want you to love your neighbors, and they're of infinite inherent worth." And I knew these things to be true already, but even coming from the healthcare space, my heart needed to be reshaped because I saw a lot of really negative things around drugs and substance use. And boy, was this a beautiful realization. And things just started becoming really clear. So let me tell you a little bit about OPA. The why behind OPA is the love for our neighbors. We're on a mission to bring more of our neighbors struggling with substance use disorder home at night. This is about helping them achieve victory in their journey through recovery. And the fascinating thing is it's not the technology that's going to fix this situation. It's not even the care they receive. The opposite of addiction is community. And what OPA is doing is leveraging data to build bridges to community so that people can have lasting recovery and live fulfilled lives where they're not shackled to the chains of addiction. Like that's where we're breaking chains.
That's beautiful. I when I hear you speak, I think I've read books about the opioid crisis and experiences and how to, the Rust Belt and just horrible experiences that have happened with it. And when I hear you speaking, I keep having this vision of you're looking at people, you're seeing them for who they are and how much shame usually addiction has for people. Like they don't want to be seen. They don't. And you're looking at them open-hearted. You're seeing them for who they are, and you're giving them value that they inherently have, but they don't feel. Is that what I'm getting?
Well, so the truth is that a lot of us don't. It's really fascinating. If you're in a room of 100 people and they were to be honest, you ask the question, how many people don't feel like they're enough? Right? Yeah.
That's why we're doing this.
Right. It's very common, right? The truth of it is this. And this is something I share with a lot of folks. If you want to get to know somebody very quickly, you can ask 2 questions. First question is rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Ask them. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 for me.
7.
Awesome. So how did you arrive at 7? Because you realized I didn't give you any kind of metric. You came up with 7 on your own. So how did you arrive at 7?
I did 1 to 10, 10 being.
Yeah, go ahead.
Being the best version of myself.
Great. So why 7 though? Why not 9?
Because I still have work to do.
And where, in what area?
Self-worth and self-love.
Self-worth and self-love. Any other ways that you arrived at 7?
It's my favorite number.
Okay. Anything else? That's a good one. Yeah, that's fair. Why 7? Why not 8? Why not 6? Why 7? Because you have work to do, you said. And self-love,
worth.
Self-worth. Yeah. Why 7?
I mean, it's a long-winded answer. Sort of like when you said you downloaded that message from God, like I don't trust those downloads yet, which I believe is saying I don't trust myself. Like I'm still healing.
Okay.
That's
fair. That's fair. And the second question I ask people, this is great that we're doing this live because this is how I do it. Is the second question is, what are you passionate about?
Chasing my self-actualization.
Okay. Seriously, though? Or what?
No, seriously.
Some people's passions aren't necessarily what they're doing, but they're things that they're passionate about. So what are you truly passionate about? Truly
just chasing being the best version of myself for my children, for my neighbors, for my husband. If I'm the best version of myself, I feel like I'm living in alignment to what God wants. But for me, that's very scary and still something very new.
Yeah, and that's totally okay, right? So this is why I do this. So when I ask someone to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10, and I don't give them a metric, I can understand how they're measuring themselves and the world around them. Like, what's important? What are your values? And what I hear you say is 7, and the answer I get most common is 7.
Okay.
So that's the most common answer.
That was the number I thought of too.
Yeah.
And when you were pushing on it, I was like, yeah, why did I pick that? And I just thought, 6, better than that. 10 sounds too good. 7 felt comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, totally fair, right?
Yeah.
But you had a way to arrive at that, and I didn't give you a metric. So it shows that this is your measurement, and that you are basing it on something that you see value in, your value scale, quantitatively, qualitatively. And the other thing I ask about is passion. What are you passionate about, right? And you told me, and thank you for sharing that with me. This is what I know to be true. And I've done this literally with thousands of people.
Should I be scared now? Because my heart is beating. Like, am I gonna
Take a deep breath. We'll breathe. Go. So this is what I know to be true, is that if you're passionate about something and you're moving in the opposite direction of your passion, you're going to be less satisfied. You'll often rate yourself lower because you're not encouraged, you're not excited about what you're doing. You often start thinking less about yourself, especially if you're working in an area where maybe you're not gifted or skilled to be in. Like your life is moving in one direction. It's the opposite of your passion, because quite often what we're passionate about is the thing that we seek or we're already built for. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like your purpose. And the other thing is when folks measure themselves and they say, I'm a 3, the other thing I can tell about that person is that they are going to be moving very slowly toward whatever they deem success. Because if you see yourself as a 3, you become very cautious. You become very fearful. You lack information. When you lack information, you become fearful. When you're fearful enough, you become angry, right? Mm-hmm. And angry people are irrational, right? So when you start to see folks gearing anything less than 7, like 6, 5, 4, they're moving very slowly along that path in their life. They're often fearful. They're often lacking information, often lacking purpose. Or they're just moving the opposite direction of what they were created for, right? When you see people moving in the direction in which they're passionate about and they're created for, you hear higher numbers, right? And sometimes you don't, and it's because they start comparing themselves with people around them, right? And if you say, well, I'm not as smart as my sister, I'm not as tall as my brother, I'm not as strong as my aunt, whatever is important to how you see your value. This is what I know to be true. Everyone is a 10. Here's the difference. Before you can see the 10 in somebody else, you got to be able to see it in yourself. And this is not like a fluffy, hey, I'm just going to call myself a 10 because I am. Let me tell you a few secrets that aren't secrets. These are actually facts. Inside your head, your skull, you have a brain, right? Your brain has 88 billion neurons. Each of those neurons has 10,000 unique connections. So inside your head is the most complex object in the known universe. Inside your head. The universe is 485 million light years across. So if I started on a journey right now to cross the universe and I was traveling at the speed of light, it would take me over 400 million years to reach the other side. So you possess within you the most complex and beautiful object in all the known universe. How could you not think you were a 10? You're creating God's
childhood.
image. You created God's image. And here's another example. I pull out 2 $100 bills in front of you right now, right? I'm not doing it because I didn't think to do this ahead of time, or else I would have stopped at the bank. But I pull out 2 $100 bills right in front of you. One I just got from the mint. I mean, it's so crispy, I could probably get a paper cut from it, right? It's such a crispy $100 bill. The other $100 bill has been in circulation for 10 years. And it's been run over, stepped on, sat out in the rain. Half of it is bleached. It's got a coffee ring on it. One of the corners is missing, but you can still use it, you know? And the crispy $100 bill says, hey, my life is clean. Nothing's happened to me. I've done nothing but succeed the whole time, right? And the other one's like, you don't know where I've been, right? Guess what? they're worth exactly the same.
That's beautiful. You're like blowing my mind away right now, because the whole, what I've been working at, why my passion is chasing self-actualization for everyone is I turn on the news, I walk down the street, and I feel the world is flipped upside down. And if more people were walking around loving themselves, they would love their neighbor, and we wouldn't have the world we're living now.
I really do agree with you. And it sounds like truth is what it sounds like, because the reality is
crazy, but thank you.
Yeah, no, it's not crazy. In fact, I don't like that word. I'm pulling that entirely out of my vernacular. So the thing about it is this: we are 10s, and I can show you lots of different ways in which I know this to be factually true. And in the Bible, it literally says we were made in His image. You think He didn't make any junk, you know? And while we look around, there's 8 billion people on this planet, and we look around, we're like, well, it's pretty easy to start comparing. We're all diamonds. We're all unique. We're all of infinite and inherent value, and we have to see it in ourselves and love ourselves first before we can truly see and love somebody else, right? But we know how to love because He first loved us. You know, and when we connect to that understanding and realize there was a price paid for us and that we are infinitely valuable, when you can get to that, this is the first thing that happens. The first thing that happens is we stop judging ourselves. Second thing that happens is we stop caring what others think about us, because we know we were wired for something great and that there's a purpose for us. And then we start learning how to love and heal, and then love and help others heal. You know, and that's where things really start getting interesting. But I'm telling you for a fact, you cannot, as much as you want to, be able to truly love somebody else and truly see the 10 in them until you have found it in yourself.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, it's just, there's something just powerfully true about that.
You seem really anchored in there, whereas I feel like I have a foot in, a foot out. I'm still.
We can change it today.
Anchor me in, how?
Yeah, you can change it today.
Just by
in a moment, right now. By just accepting the fact that you are a 10. And a 10 doesn't mean that you're perfect. That's not what it means. It means you're of infinite value. It doesn't mean you're perfect. You don't need to be perfect. Those $100 bills, they're both worth $100.
Same. Yeah. No, and you know, if we had Maslow's pyramid here, I keep saying I'm right there in the self-love, self-trust, self-healing phase. I had to work on the security, for a while, but I can see the beautiful divine, like, chessboard game that God had to play with me to get here. Mm-hmm. For me to say I'm a 7 is wonderful, where 20 years ago I couldn't look people in the eyes. I showed up like this. I felt no worth, no self-worth, no self-love. So it's been a 20-year journey, and I'm still just on the cusp of it. So thank you for sharing that. I think
a lot of what you were saying throughout, because I caught it when you were talking about when you were 9, and what you just said now, and I 100% agree with you. There have been times throughout your life where all you did was be receptive. That's some of the theme of what you've been saying. Would you agree? That you received the download, that you received the favor, if you will. And I heard it in how you responded to Marisol and myself, just, you can do it right now. I agree with you. I think it can be 20 years to get to a point where you can do it right now. But I do, I receive it. When you said that, I was like, I receive it. Done. Cool. I'm a 10.
Right on.
And I think it is anchoring into that recognition. You can't take away from your value. You can't add to your value.
That's exactly right.
And I got chills listening to you go through that. I was like, I'm changed. Cool.
I feel like
what else am I doing today?
Yeah. I've been trying to hold back. Don't you cry.
Yeah.
You can cry if you want to. I might start crying too. I almost did when we were getting started. Yeah. I was like, whoa, that got me. I wasn't expecting.
I was like, cool, right off the get-go. Let's go.
And I'm okay with it. And that's the thing. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry even. It's okay to laugh. Like, we were built to be emotional beings.
Yeah, I think
meet people where they are. Rejoice with those that rejoice, mourn with those that mourn, because you have the opportunity to half someone's burdens or double their joy. It's your choice.
So
you got some good one-liners, David.
I'm like, maybe he wants to be our third podcast. So if there's someone listening right now who is not does not see themselves as 7, 8, 9, 10. They're in the 3, 4, 5, 6. What would be the one piece of advice you would want for them?
That doesn't see themselves as a 10? Mm-hmm. What's the one piece of advice?
See yourself as a 10.
Oh boy, we started out by praying, and I'll tell you, the source of my strength, my hope and my peace, my purpose, my vision, everything comes from Christ alone. And everything that I could possibly do is an artificial version of what I would create that God has already created. So I'm partnering with his vision and purpose for my life and keeping my eyes focused on him. I would say that the number one thing that anybody could do is receive Christ as their Lord and Savior, per point blank. And in doing that, there will already be freedom, period. But once you come to the realization once you come to that realization, all this is naturally going to happen anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's less about my advice and about what the truth is, you know? It's partnering with the truth. But the reality is this: you can be changed in a moment for the good or the bad, and some things are a journey, right? So as an example, one of the things that I tell entrepreneurs, and I've taught this to many students as well, is as an exercise to become more of a visionary, right? I say, architect your perfect day for me. What's your perfect day?
Oh, I wake up in the morning, I pray, I meditate, I make breakfast for my husband, and I do my gratitude journal, and I do a visualization of what my perfect day is. I do that every day. I literally say every day.
You were prepared for this one. That's great.
But my baseline when I wake up, I had to teach myself those things. My baseline when I woke up in what I would say an unconscious state, I wouldn't plan my day. My day would have me. I would be running out of the bed, going to that meeting, doing that work thing, and not being present. I wasn't in my body. I wasn't treating every moment as holy, which is what I'm trying to do now in my life, which is this moment is a holy moment for me because I'm open-hearted. I'm listening to you. I'm receiving. But I can leave and it closes right back up, and I'm not there consistently, and that's what I'm chasing right now.
That's okay. Have grace in yourself. This is beautiful, though. So when I have individuals architect the perfect day, and it sounds like you can live your perfect day now, which is amazing.
I try
to. You put a lot of thought into this. Some folks are very far from their perfect day. Let me explain to you what I mean. So for some of these students, they're working their tail off to get through school. They've got a mountain of debt. You know, they're depressed. They're overweight. They don't have a great home life, and their perfect day, they're cast out like 15 years from where they are today. They're like, I want to wake up and have a family that's functional, like a strong family and 2 kids. I want to wake up and be able to run, 5 miles and come home and take a shower, but they can't run, 50 feet without getting short of breath. Mm-hmm. They're so far in debt that they can't even imagine spending money. And their perfect day involves them going out and having a lobster, for lunch, right? So some things aren't going to happen overnight, and that's okay, right? But being able to set the goalpost is very important. What is it going to look like when you feel like you've achieved something that is success, right? When you lived enough perfect days, right? Or you can live your perfect day every day and just know, like, this is what I was hoping for. This is really what I wanted. Because the thing is this, if you don't set those goalposts, pretty hard to arrive at the right destination. Life has a way of taking us left and right, but not where we want. And often we didn't set those goalposts and we passed them 2 miles ago, 20 years ago, and we look back and we're like, it was perfect there. I didn't need the Lamborghini. I didn't need to be a world traveler. What I needed to be was at home more. The Camry was fine. What I wanted was more time with my family. What I wanted was more time to pursue things I was passionate about that were hobbies, but they're things that I enjoyed. It's important to set that perfect day and set your goalposts so that when you arrive there, you landed where you wanted to be, and then you can be more of a blessing to the people around you because you feel satisfied.
And it builds on each other. Gratitude it's an energy that when you start to look for things to be grateful for, more things to be grateful for appear. So if I've set the day being grateful for what I'm going to experience. By the end of the day, I'm grateful for the day I've had. Even the hardships, I'm like, learned something there, did something there, experienced something there. And something else I thought of is what you want changes, like, or what you think, what you believe is going to make you happy, or that this external thing that's the achievement. When you start practicing this and living your life that way, you start to realize none of that really matters. Like I'm still surprised when I'm like, wow, I don't really care about how much money this is or how much I'm making off of this. I'm happy. Like I have the security that I need to be able to do what I want to do. And that's enough. Like I don't need more. I don't need that handbag or that shoe or those things don't matter anymore. Whereas 20 years ago, it would have been like, what's in my closet? Where am I traveling to? Who am I dating? It was so superficial what I thought success was. And it's not till now that I'm in my 50s that I realize it's all in me. Like nothing external. It's no one else. It's not the guy. It's not my children. It's in me to find my peace. And I don't know. There's no question there.
I've been very blessed to have a very loud internal. Like I would try to pursue outward things and be like, just quiet, you're fine. And I was like, no, you're not, quit the job. And so I was always kind of more forced into it just to like maintain any sense of peace, but wasn't really aware of what that journey was, what I was responding to until a little bit later. And I have I do a lot of journaling and visualizing, and have actually just watched, like, I can go, but I'll date things for 1 year in the future and write that day out. And then I will be in the day. I'll go, wait, this is the day I wrote about this, So I do this all.
That.
I mean, it gives me chills. I'll be just sitting talking to someone or something, and I go, whoa, it's happening. Cool.
What's the feeling that you get beyond cool? What's the feeling?
I'll tingle everywhere. It hits and I just tingle. And I'm like, I kind of feel like when I wrote about it the year before, it was more like God being like, psst, next year. Like it makes me feel one and whole with all that is. Because I go, there's no way I can write on paper unless it was destined and I just knew it. It's also caused me to recognize that my passion is the seed God planted in me, and that it is my duty to chase it, not frivolous of me. And that was something, that's something I've learned because I see how interconnected those dreams are, that they bless others, that when I'm in pursuit of my passion, everyone around, I begin to see how that blesses other people. I told you about my son's school that I put together. In my mind, that was for me, give me peace of mind. Obviously blessed my son. Then to learn it blessed the teacher. Then to see the other students that came. Then to see like the community blessed. That becomes profound. You go, oh, I wasn't doing something for me. I was being led to do something. That's why I felt passion. Passion's the calling, the leading,
And I think one thing that's important for listeners is, as I would say, especially for women, because I hear most of it from women, and they ask, what's my passion? I don't know what my passion is. And they think it's a job, or they think that passion can change and evolve in your lifetime. Mine has. There was a time in my life when it was all about my kids and being what I thought was the best mom at the time. Now my passion is this. And, or 30 years ago, it was climbing the corporate ladder. Your passions can change and evolve. Some people are lucky enough that they get it, that download.
And they can be very small. Yeah. I mean, it can be
gardening.
Something that kind of comes up when you're like, I'd like to go have lunch with someone. I mean, for me, passion can be overarching my career, my kids, it can be small too. What am I having feeling around? We think 1,000 thoughts, 1,000,000 thoughts a day. Some of them have a feeling attached. When that feeling's good, I go, there's my passion. What did you just say?
So as you're speaking, I'm actually having revelation as you're speaking. This is really beautiful. So we can, I believe, this is my belief. So there's think, believe, and know, right? Think is like the first level, to believe it. I'm like, I have evidence to think that this is going to happen, I believe this is going to happen. I think there's enough evidence there. And then there's no, where it's like, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if I drop a bowling ball, it's going to hit the ground, right? I just know these things to be true. There are a lot of things I know to be true. I believe, I believe that we can have our passions, which sometimes look like pursuits, not necessarily passion, but there's like, I really want this. It's okay. God gave us desires, and the ability to live them out with eagerness and talents. But then there's passion, and there's actually just having a passionate heart, meaning, some folks walk around and it's almost as if like emotionally they're dead. But they're like, if you ask them, they're like, oh, I'm really passionate about dogs. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because emotionally, I wasn't sure if you had an emotional compass. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm saying it kind of in jest, but seriously, like emotionally, like, you don't feel anything. There doesn't feel like the zest for life, for living. Like,
I say they're existing. That's how I define it. Like,
yeah,
they're existing, not living.
Yeah. So it's like, so I think it's two things. It's one, it's like a vector, it's like there's force and direction when there's passion, so like I have a momentum, I'm passionate, right? I have a momentum toward this thing and I'm moving in the direction of it, right? So I feel like just in our day-to-day, we can be passionate people looking for opportunities to connect, looking for opportunities to truly live. And to truly live is not to avoid pain, right? So one of these big things that I used to do, and it just dawned on me, but now I do it like regular, is that I let my body experience stress, meaning like I'll take a cold shower almost every day, or I'll end in a cold shower every day. And when it's freezing outside, I'll go out without my jacket on when it's raining. And then I don't huddle myself up and like hug myself to stay warm. I breathe it all in, because I'm alive. I have the ability to stand out there in the rain and freeze. It sounds like I need to have my head checked, but the reality is to live is to suffer, but to be able to breathe it in is to live, to understand.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I actually was hitting on this more recently as well. I had somebody talking to me about, detach from outcome. And I support some of these concepts, but basically like, don't care what happens and you won't be sad. And I was like, I don't really think I came here in this body for that existence. Like, I could shut it all down and not feel sad. But is that life? It's not. And to your point, I mean, it is a series. And I always say that I'm very happy, very angry, very sad, if I'm feeling it, I'm very feeling it. And that has been, and I've been made to feel wrong for that at times, that I shouldn't feel very sad. It's because I care very much. I'm glad that I feel very sad, because there's a counterpart to that. And I think, really, to your point, we aren't supposed to never feel sad. We aren't supposed to avoid disappointment, because then we're avoiding everything.
Yeah. Moreover, to this point, like being emotionally open, intellectually open, and sensitive, you create opportunities to really meet somebody where they are, to grow and learn yourself. Because if you close yourself off, this is the easy example I can possibly think of. It's hard to open a door with a closed fist. And to truly live life, you have to have an open hand. And in fact, if you hold everything with an open hand, some things are going to be taken out and some things are going to be put back in. But you never worry, because your hand is always like this. Something's going to come in it, something's going to leave it. Be grateful for when it arrives. Be grateful when it leaves, because something else is coming. But you have to be open for it. And it's the same thing with the passion. Like, the passion is not like I have to be burning all the time, right? Unless you're really feeding that fire. But it's the openness. Yeah. And it's the clarity about what it is that you enjoy doing. Sometimes if you don't know what your passion is, look at the things that you enjoy. Sometimes they're hidden there.
Also, I've heard if you don't know your passion, look at what you're angry over.
Yeah.
And you can like reverse that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It's something, because I know for me, I was in a state where I was feeling challenged and depressed years ago. And someone told me that. And at the time I was really angry about how schools treated special needs kids. And I thought, so this is my passion, because I'm really just mad.
Yeah.
And I was able to flip that into something more useful. Anger can sometimes be, I'm passionate about this, but I think I can't do anything about it. And when you realize, yes, I can, that can flip it.
I love that. Thank you. You bless me.
Awesome. I was thinking, as you both were speaking about, I describe people who are existing, who are like not feeling, going through the motions, wake up, go to the job, feed dinner, go to sleep, and repeat, and not feeling and doing everything. And I'm not saying this in judgment. I was there for most of my life. But there was this childhood book that I used to read to my kids that said it was going on a bear hunt. Did you ever read it? It's like, you can't go over it.
Going on a bear hunt. Yeah,
you can't go under it. You got to go through it. And that's kind of how I've landed on emotions and feelings. Like, can't jump over it, can't jump under it. I have to experience all the pain and suffering and goodness and happiness and joy. To feel the joy, I have to be able to feel the suffering as well. And that's something that I am trying to have grace about myself, is just feel. Just don't, because I really want to suppress feelings. Like when I turn on the news and I see something, I want to shut it off. I don't want to feel the pain and suffering that's going on. But I'm learning to just sit in it for a little bit, not stay there.
Yeah.
But to go through it.
I feel like the toddler phase of children has taught me about going through my feelings. I remember one day thinking, I was telling my toddler to stop. And then I went, gosh, I need to learn from him. 2-minute fit and he's over it and fine. I suppress it and deal with the outcome of that for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I should have a fit.
Yeah.
You know, like you shouldn't be sad
great.
You don't get what you want. You go through your feelings and then you go play. So that was like kind of eye-opening for me that,
That's
you know,
good.
we're supposed to have a reaction. We're made to react. You know, behavior, you know, we don't throw toys at other people, whatever, but those feelings are completely valid. I've been more recently really validating feelings, saying they can't be right or wrong. My actions can be, but my feelings are just an emotional reaction to my world.
Yeah, right. That's good. That's good. There, to your point regarding, you know, having to walk through it and feel all this, there definitely is the journey part of it, you know, and there are opportunities where you literally just walking through hell and you've got soles on your feet to be able to do it. When you get to the other side of it, though, you can help other people who are walking through it as well. But the key is to know that you're never alone. Mm-hmm. You know, anything that you're feeling or you're experiencing, you're not the first and you're not the only right now who's walking through that exact same thing. And there'll be others after you. You know, you're not alone. That's a big piece of this. And we earlier spoke about happiness and joy. I don't think we were mic'd up for that one. I think there's a very distinct difference between happiness and joy. I know that you all feel this way too. I might have a slightly different take on it. So, and I'm not the purveyor of all things here. I've learned things that I know to be true. There are things I believe to be true, and there are things that I think that are on that journey of knowing. Here's something I believe to be true. Happiness is transient. I can be incredibly happy right now, and you can spill hot coffee on my leg, and my happiness is gone. You know, it's paper thin often. You know, joy is very different. Joy is like a well that even in times of a desert where I can drop a pail into the sand and pull out living water, where no matter how hot or turbulent my life may be, I've got this peace, this joy in me that supersedes the outside circumstances, whatever they may be. So I urge people to find joy. You know, happiness is given, it can be taken away. Education is another beautiful thing. Once you have an education, nobody can take that away from you. That's a beautiful thing. Your freedom, that can be gone in a heartbeat, right? Joy cannot be taken from you. And joy belongs to the Lord, it belongs to us, you know. Yeah. Happiness, paper thin. So don't go for things that make you happy.
David, you were also talking earlier about your interpretation of self-actualization, and how you saw that. Can you share that?
Oh, sure. So self-actualization, Maslow's hierarchy needs is a beautiful thing, makes complete sense, very pragmatic. You know, we have to have airway, breathing, circulation, you know, we have to feel safe. We have to feel emotionally connected, you know, all these sort of very basic things. And we get to the pinnacle of Maslow's hierarchy needs, the idea of self-actualization. And it's very self. It's self-focused, you know, and meeting, and this is just my interpretation I've heard and I've I've read is it's understanding, how you're uniquely gifted and becoming the best version of yourself, and really understanding oneself. I think that's amazing, and I think that can't be where this stops, right? So self-actualization is understanding not just yourself, oneself, and being the best version of yourself, but understanding, what value do I add to the world? How am I uniquely gifted and shaped that I meet somebody else's broken part?
Yeah.
When God looks down on the earth, we're all these broken pieces. Not one of us has made it through life unscathed, not one, and we feel like broken glass, just scattered about, and sometimes question if there's any order to the world when we watch the news. When God looks down, he sees a stained glass window.
Yeah.
He sees all these broken pieces put together in such an elegant fashion, but we don't have his perspective. We can achieve a piece of it, but we don't have his same vision. He sees how it all comes together, becomes something beautiful. So we're all asymmetric. We're all broken in some fashion, but infinitely valuable and part of a larger plan. And when we can see how we are uniquely shaped to understand oneself and be the best version of even in our brokenness, we can see how we can join to this person and that situation and this thing in the world, so that the sum of the parts is greater. The sum of the whole is much greater than its parts. I'm not sure if I said that right. There's a force multiplier. There's value in knowing how you fit into the world and how you uniquely add value to it, and then somebody next to you. So if the journey ends in knowing yourself and being the best version of yourself, if that's where it ends, you remain self-focused and not others-focused, you will always be limiting what you could actually do.
Yeah, I completely agree. I believe that if you get close to even attaining it and becoming the best version of yourself, you innately want it for other people. And that's sort of what brought us.
I think that journey is undoable without recognizing that it's through service that we find fulfillment somewhere along. I don't know where on that track you find out, you go, oh, this doesn't work. It doesn't work like this. I have to be of service to truly find, to journey through myself. It's in the reflections of how we're interacting with each other and helping people. What I know of you, and we've, actually only met a few times, but I saw something that I go, oh, I knew when I was getting more into my career that it was important to me that I was authentic, and that I know that there's a way to show up, to corporate meetings, but that I was never going to lose that integrity, as you spoke of. And when I look out into the world and I see somebody doing it and having great success, your product's going to market. You're going to be able to help thousands, millions of people. You're going to have personal fulfillment, financial gains because of that. And I can look at that and go, and he has integrity, and he doesn't waver because of the room he's in. I go, then I can have that too. And that's part of having you on today.
Life into me now.
But it's because we want our listeners to know that it's not true that you have to forsake yourself to move forward and have the things that God has in store for you. And I think you're an example of that. And I'm really grateful that you came on to share with us today.
I think that's where we have to end, because I don't think we can top that, but that was beautiful.
Yeah, you blessed me. That is beautiful. I've got some feelings on that. Maybe we'll share that for the next podcast.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much. Right. Thank you for coming. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was wonderful. Appreciate everyone's time.
And that is another episode of Chasing Self Actualization. Thank you for joining us. Please make sure to like and subscribe and follow us for more information.
And to learn more about our guest or what we're doing next, you can check out our website at chasingselfactualization.com.